A lot of you on this channel probably found me because I was criticizing a multi-level marketing company, or I was criticizing a business guru, or I was criticizing someone like Grant Cardone or Rachel Hollis in one way or another. In the past, I've talked about how I think someone like Rachel Hollis has done a lot of super unethical things in her life, and I really disagree with a lot of the paths that she's taken, but I don't think that she's beyond redemption. Now, if you guys saw a video I made a couple weeks ago talking about how I pre-ordered her book and how I'm going to be reviewing it. My next video that I had scheduled to do about her or about anything related to any of this was going to be the book review that I'm going to put out next Friday. I'm currently waiting for that book to come to me in the mail, so I'm going to be reviewing that then. But in the meantime, something else happened that really made me feel like I actually have to make a video about her first. In the past, I've had some issues with Rachel Hollis's content, specifically her toxic positivity, some of the messages that she's pushed, and the way that she's condoned multi-level marketing companies. However, I hope that by now you guys all realize that I'm also not the kind of person who blindly loves or blindly hates someone. Rather, I'm the kind of person who likes to take things on a case-by-case basis, who likes to look at each new situation within context and determine what's going on based on the facts and the context surrounding that situation. So today, before her book is even out, before I even had the chance to make a video that I was already planning to make, after seeing a situation that arose on Instagram in which Rachel was actually in the right, I decided I needed to make this video today coming to her defense. To quote the title of her new book, didn't see that coming. Hey, what's up, my fellow small business supporters? I'm Savvy. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome to my channel for the first time. If this is your first time here, please don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell, because every Monday and Friday at 11 a.m. Central, I put out new videos about my life as an author and a small business owner, along with roasting some of the business scammers and the multi-level marketers and the pyramid schemers of the world. On Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Central, I host the AuthorTube Sleepover, where a bunch of writers get together and have a sleepover party, so if that sounds fun, make sure you're here for that. Sometimes, like today, I just put out a bonus video when something new happens. I apologize if this video doesn't have lots of fun editing. I'm gonna do my best because I want to get this out quickly, even though I wasn't planning on it. Didn't see that coming. Let's see how many times I can make puns off of Rachel. So earlier today, someone DM'd me on Instagram to say, did you see Rachel's new Instagram post? And I was like, no, because I don't follow her. Maybe I should now. And I even commented on this post being like, Rachel, I'm coming to your defense on this one. Still don't think she knows who I am, but regardless, if she does, if she has an inkling that there's someone named Savvy out there who's been criticizing her on the internet, hopefully she's like, wow, look at this, an olive branch has been extended. I'm gonna stop writing fan fiction about myself. Anyway, Rachel posted something that was really, really important, and when this person told me she's getting dragged in the comment section, I was like, oh no, did she do something problematic? Did she do something offensive? No, she actually did the right thing. And a bunch of other people, a bunch of her fans, were the ones who were being awful, which was surprising to me, but that's what happened. So I'm going to show some screenshots of what happened. I did blur out people's names just to protect privacy. You can see this post on Rachel's Instagram. Please don't send hate to anyone involved, but, you know, feel free to support her if you want. Feel free to leave a comment that's like, yeah, Rachel, you're right on this. Here's what Rachel posted. So she posted this graphic with a quote that said, "The most disrespected woman in America is the black woman. The most unprotected woman in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. Malcolm X." Now, I know that this is really outside the point, but can I just say that I'm proud of her for giving credit. Like, I know that is the bare minimum. Like, if she had just plagiarized that quote and not given credit, I would have been super upset. But you guys have seen the videos I've done in the past about how Rachel has plagiarized so many people and almost never gives credit on her quotes. So, like, she gave credit. So, first of all, I was, like, pleasantly surprised. Like, oh, wow, you did the bare minimum for once. What? But beyond that, I was actually really happy to see the caption that she wrote, which was 1,000% true. Here's what she said. "I hate the reminder that we still have so far to go as a nation. I hate that Breonna Taylor and her family won't get justice. I hate that people find a way to justify her death. I hate that the black community is reminded, again, They don't receive the same rights as other Americans. I hate that Black women especially must hold this loss and carry this generational and ancestral trauma and then get harassed for feeling justifiable rage. Someone else's pain is not an opportunity to start a debate, or worse, ask them to help you understand. Take ownership of your own education, seek to understand while holding tight to the truth that no amount of information will mean that you ever truly do. This is a devastating blow for a country that believes in liberty and justice for all. We can do better. That was actually like a really great caption. What Rachel said here was 1,000% true. I appreciate that she brought up the concept of generational and ancestral trauma. A lot of people like to look at, okay, we've got a country right now where the law says we're all equal, and therefore no amount of historical, cultural oppression is going to factor in. It's like humans don't exist in a vacuum, and the law isn't the be-all, end-all of culture and how we treat one another, and I think the fact that she recognized that was really great. Then from there, she went on to talk about how it's a devastating blow for a country that is supposed to believe in liberty and justice for all. There was no justice here. And she was like, we can do better. I agree. I think that the United States is a country with a lot of potential to do a lot better than what we have been doing in these type of instances. And I think it's great that she brought attention to that. Of course, the people in her comment section were not so great. So let's take a look at some comments. Sorry, I love your books, but if you're going to push this racism crap, I'm done. First of all, whoever left this comment could not be more opposite of me, because I'm like, Rachel, I hate your books, but I appreciate that you're bringing light to the fact that there's some racism. Like, racism crap, like, they don't even provide any justification to say, like racism is a myth, racism isn't real, like, why would you say racism is crap without backing that up, especially considering that so many people have been victims of racism and that racism is well documented within our history, and it's unreasonable to expect that hundreds and hundreds of years of racial biases that have been ingrained into people are just going to disappear with a changing of one or two laws a couple decades ago. No, racism absolutely still exists, and the fact that this person just kind of said it doesn't, that's really weird, and I don't understand why they do that. This person said, oh my gosh, seriously? Do you have no concept of how facts work? That her boyfriend was a drug dealer, that he shot at police first and injured one of them. Imagine that law enforcement officer's wife reading what you are preaching about. They had every right to be here because he was a drug dealer. I'm going to try to break this comment down the best I can. In the United States, we have a justice system. We are all guaranteed, I'm going to invoke the Constitution here, because this all does actually come back to constitutional rights that we're all guaranteed. First of all, the Constitution guarantees all Americans due process. So if you are accused of a crime, even if you're guilty of it, you are entitled by not just the law, but the Constitution, so that no law can ever get rid of this right. You are entitled to a trial where evidence is presented by lawyers. That is one of the basic foundational concepts of the United States. So, no, it's not just he's a drug dealer, therefore he deserves punishment. No, it's if he was accused of committing a crime of dealing drugs, which I could go on a rant about how I think that drug dealing is punished way too harshly for what it is. Like, drug dealing is not, I mean, sometimes it can be a violent crime depending on the circumstance, but drug dealing itself is punished way too harshly for what it is. But that's a different topic for a different day that I'm not going to go completely into right now. So you're guaranteed to a trial by jury before you're convicted of anything, before you can have any punishment. And especially whether that's the death penalty or some type of physical punishment, the death penalty requires extensive evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. There was no trial here. This guy, first of all, the fact that it was her boyfriend, like, a lot of people have brought up, it was actually her ex-boyfriend and it was the wrong house, like, that's, so, but regardless of any of that, even if this dude was a drug dealer, he would have the right to a trial. He should not have, like, oh my god. So anyway, it's just this thing where it's like people talk about, you know, if someone gets killed by the police, there's this whole discussion of, well, were they doing something wrong? Literally, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because everyone is entitled, like, the police cannot serve as the executioner. Society cannot function if police are acting as judge, jury, and executioner. Now, I know someone's going to come up in my comments, because I've had this before, and say, Savvy, why do you hate the police so much? I don't. Literally never said I hate all police officers. I said I hate these people who happen to be police officers and happen to abuse their power and kill an innocent person. Yeah, I'm gonna hate that, as any reasonable person should. Whether anyone involved was, like, whether they were innocent or guilty, whether anyone was involved in any crime is not relevant, because society cannot function if police are allowed to act as executioners and get away with it. Hope that makes sense. Let's move on. This person said, please use your platform to encourage people to read the actual facts of the case, to understand the law and see how bad life choices can put you in a position where tragedy can occur. Continuing the narrative that justice didn't prevail continues the anger and violence. Your books teach the opposite of this. Use that narrative. And then somebody responded very reasonably saying, so if your ex-boyfriend is a drug dealer, you deserve to be murdered? And this person said, first of all, I didn't say she deserved to die. I specifically said her death was tragic. But her choices in friends and boyfriends had her home and car being used for drugs. She was on the warrant, and she was in the company of a man that had a gun and was willing to shoot at police. If your friends and boyfriends are dealing drugs, expect violence and possible police intervention. First of all, if we're living in a country that is supposed to be considered one of the best and safest countries in the world, there should be no situation where you should expect violence. Expect violence? If you're not instigating violence against another person, there is no reason you should ever have to expect violence. Now, I know that that is an idealistic thought and the world doesn't actually work that way, but I'm saying that it's a shame that the world doesn't work that way, and that's a tragedy that we need to be working on fixing. Next, can we talk about the victim blaming in this comment? Oh my god. Oh my god. That's the equivalent of saying, well, what was she wearing? Can we talk about the victim blaming? The idea that, like, well, if she hadn't chosen to associate herself with this person, she didn't commit a crime. And regardless of whether she did, the police, like, even if she did commit a crime, which she didn't. So, like, let me just make it clear. She was not guilty of anything, but even if she was, even if somebody was like even if there's a person who's like a serial killer, they cannot be killed until there has been due process. The world, the country, the fabric of our nation cannot function properly without that, because then we'll turn back into the Wild West with vigilante justice left and right. The police cannot have free reign to kill people. That's not okay. So anyway, but can we just talk about the victim blaming of that? Oh, I associated myself with someone who might or might not have been doing something bad. And they're like, what? Are you serious? Like, to this person, if that were your daughter, would you feel the same way? Seriously. If your daughter made a mistake and went out with a guy who wasn't good for her and ended up getting killed years down the line for something unrelated, and somebody said that, would you be reacting the same way? Oh my god. I cannot believe this. And this person who's saying, please use your platform to encourage, like, Rachel's actually using her platform for good for once. She's not using her platform to condone scams and multi-level marketing schemes right now. She's not using her platform to preach toxic positivity. And she's actually, like, recognizing, because a lot of people have called out Rachel for being, like, privileged in the sense that she pushes this narrative of, you are in charge of your own destiny. You can do whatever you want in this life and all of that. And people have said, like, well, there are actually structural barriers to a lot of people being able to do that. And this message isn't always feasible in everyone's circumstances. And Rachel seems to, in a way, be finally recognizing that by saying that there is ancestral trauma, that there is a historical oppression that has been perpetuated over many years. So Rachel's doing the right thing and her fans are being assholes. Like, this is driving me insane. This is driving me insane, guys. I need to calm down. While I take a quick break to calm down, please check out the description below. I have linked a bunch of resources about petitions you can sign about arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. I have petitions about that in the description. I have resources you can check out. I'll link as many resources to the facts of the case so you can learn them yourself if you want. I think we all should read the facts about things. I don't disagree with people who say you need to read the actual facts of the case. I think that's true. I agree. But I think that they're grossly misinterpreting and have, like, a personal bias in terms of, like, let me go off real quick. This is a general problem I think that a lot of people have, where it's like you see the world in terms of good and evil. If you're a person who's good, good things will happen. If you're a person who's evil, evil things will happen. But the fact is that's not how, like, the real world is much more complex than that, based on the fact that, like, for generations, different people were denied different rights. And I don't want to just sound like a broken record being like, straight white men had privilege, but, like, the truth is, historically, that group of people was given advantages, and therefore when you're given advantages early on, it's easier to get farther ahead quicker. And this is just such a complex topic that it's a lot of explaining, but this very simplistic, well, she was with a drug dealer, so what did she expect? That's disgusting. I never want to hear someone saying that. This person says, drink some coffee 1 second. As the wife of a police officer, what about our pain? As a motivational speaker who aims to spread positivity, I find it seriously disappointing that you chose not to remain neutral on these matters, especially when you clearly have not spent the time to research the case personally and are now spreading false narratives to a platform of almost 2 million people. Officers are being attacked and killed almost daily, and you have the gall to insinuate that we don't know what pain is every time we watch our loved ones walk out the door, unsure if they will ever come home because of posts like these, creating a larger divide between Black America and the law enforcement community. You are part of the problem. All right, let's unpack this. I feel like I'm arguing on Rachel's behalf, which is weird. This is not a thing I'm used to doing, but, like, she was actually trying to do something good, and people are not just putting words in her mouth, but also, like, just saying things that are so, like, the logical connection doesn't work. Let's go through this. So just the first sentence, as the wife of a police officer, what about our pain? So that's a thing we call whataboutism, where it's basically saying, well, you said this thing was bad, therefore you must not think the other thing is also bad, which is false, right? Like, Rachel and humans in general are allowed to recognize more than one person having pain at a time. So the fact that she says, as the wife of a police officer, what about our pain? Rachel's post did not say, you know, that this was a tragedy, that Breonna Taylor was murdered, and therefore I think that all police officers' wives do not deserve to ever feel pain. Like, that is a logical fallacy. That connection was never drawn. It is possible, like this person is saying here, that, like, there's police officers that get killed. It's possible to both mourn the death of a police officer who, like, if there was a police officer, you know, who was doing their job correctly, who was not being trigger happy, who was not abusing their power. If you have a police officer who's following their duties, protecting people safely and doing that, and they get killed in the line of duty, you can mourn that. And then at the same time, you can also say, well, these police officers who killed a person did something that was bad, and therefore I am going to mourn her and claim that those people should be in jail and lose their positions as police officers because clearly they cannot handle it. Like, those things are not mutually exclusive, and there's absolutely no connection that would make them ever that way. So this whole what about our pain thing is absolutely a logical fallacy. That doesn't make any sense. And so then she says, posts like this create a larger divide between Black America and the law enforcement community. That doesn't make any sense. First of all, I blurred out this person's profile picture, but I think she was white from what I saw. And this is not me saying that her opinion matters less because of her race or anything like that. Obviously not. But it's me saying that she is trying to claim she knows what is creating a divide with Black America, yet she's not Black. So it's kind of like, how do you know, how are you the authority on what's creating that divide? Here's a general rule I like to have for myself when I'm looking at very complicated situations. Always ask why. Ask why until you cannot ask why anymore. And generally you'll go far enough back that you'll realize that something is, you know, has been a problem for so long and is ingrained in so many things that to fix a problem, we have to look farther and farther back. Let me explain what I mean by that. When I was a debate team kid back in the day, we were taught that it's important to solve for causes. You don't solve for effects, you solve for causes. So if there's a problem you're debating and you bring it out and you're like, okay, this is a problem, here's what causes the problem, here's the effects of the problem, and if you are here presenting a plan or a solution to the problem, your solution has to link to the cause of the problem. If your solution links to the effect of the problem, like, you could lose points. Because solutions linking to effects, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, right? It doesn't make sense that you would solve for an effect of something rather than solving for the cause. And generally with situations this complex and this difficult, to find the cause, you have to ask why about 1,000,000 times. So let's give an example. Okay. Police officer, so this person is saying that there's a divide between the law enforcement community and Black communities in America. If that's true, you want to ask why. Now, this person might say because Rachel Hollis is posting in favor of and that's obviously not why. So if you want to look at why, well, because a lot of Black Americans have grown up fearing police officers. Okay, why? Well, because historically, many police officers, not all, I'm not saying every police officer, I'm saying historically, many police officers have given into racial profiling. It is unacceptable. I, in fact, think that one of the solutions we need is for police officers to have to do a ton more training, especially involving biases and racial profiling and that kind of thing, to kind of undo some of this bias that has been ingrained in their brain over the past couple of decades. And yeah, again, I hope that makes sense. Feel free to correct me in the comments below. But anyway, we just asked why and went back a whole bunch of ways. And now that we've looked at the causes of why do particular Black communities and particular law enforcement communities not always see eye to eye, well, now that we've looked at a bunch of causes of why that might be, now maybe we can propose solutions, such as police officers being legally required to do more training regarding racial profiling and trying to undo those biases. Maybe we want to, there's a bunch of potential solutions we could propose. I don't have the definite correct answer. I don't think any one person does, or else this would probably be solved already. So I think this is an effort where, like, if we're not even looking back at those things, this is never going to be solved. So I hope that made sense. But this person is just, like, wrong and is looking at things incredibly simplistically and is engaging in whataboutism, right? If this bad thing happened, what about this thing? Well, two bad things can happen at once, okay? Coffee break before I go off the handle again. All right, this person says, it's sad that people will continue to glorify and victimize criminals. I hate to see this from you. I thought you were better than to post something so far from the truth. Okay. First of all, I don't think Breonna Taylor was a criminal in any way. Everything I've seen, she was pretty much innocent and caught in the crossfire of a terrible situation, which is one of the greatest tragedies I've ever seen. It's devastating. So the glorify and victimize criminals, I don't understand what she means by that. And in terms of victimizing criminals, even in a different case, if Rachel, even in a different situation, if she were glorifying and victimizing criminals, those who commit crimes often do so as a victim of circumstance. So it's that thing where you have to ask why, and you have to keep asking why. Ask, why does someone commit this crime? In a lot of cases, sure, maybe in a case of like a serial killer or something, because they're, I don't know, have no empathy for other human beings. That's possible in certain cases. But in the vast majority of cases of crimes, especially things related to drugs and gang violence and things like that, those crimes happen out of circumstances that people find themselves roped into when they're young people. So I hope that makes sense. Also, I would venture to guess that most people are criminals in some way or another. It's one of those things where it's like, people want to draw this line between good and bad. I am a good person. I am not a criminal. You've never committed a crime? Really? I've committed crimes. I've never been convicted of a crime, and I'm very fortunate for that, but I've definitely, looking back, I've done things that were not legal. You're going to tell me that you don't have any friends that you saw selling weed in a frat house 10 years ago who are now a lawyer? Really? Most people have committed at least one crime in their life. I think that's ridiculous. And even by accident, right? Like getting a speeding ticket or jaywalking, even like those really, really small crimes. But to paint this broad brush of criminals, that's stupid. None of us are free of sin. All right, next one. Educate yourself. I own my education by reading multiple sources and seeing what the actual facts are, not media opinions. Try it sometime. You have no evidence that Rachel didn't do that. Just because you disagree with her doesn't mean that she didn't draw that conclusion on her own. So that's a stupid comment. All right. This comment, I appreciate. I appreciate this one. By the way, for all the women saying there's more to the story, that the world is misinformed, well, let's start by saying if Breonna was your daughter, would you accept, think there's more to the story if the cops just blazed through her house and shot her while sleeping? She didn't have a chance to defend herself. She didn't have a chance to say anything. Let's say there's more to the story and she'd done some bad things. I'm not implying anything. I'm just trying to entertain this nonsense. Didn't she have the right to be judged, accused, and sentenced? Thank you. I don't think Breonna Taylor was a criminal, but regardless, even if her boyfriend was a criminal, which I don't think he was, I'm pretty sure it was her ex, regardless, the police are not executioners. Society will crumble if police are allowed to continue acting as executioners. This is ridiculous. That's the vast majority of the comments that I screenshotted. I want to give a shout out to an account to head over to this Instagram page by a woman named Kimberly Latrice Jones. Kimberly Latrice Jones is a writer. She is a best-selling author, and she writes a lot about how systemic racism has perpetuated itself over the past couple hundred years. She has a bunch of videos on her Instagram channel, one in particular that was cycling around back when the protests over George Floyd were going on. There was one that was cycling around that broke it down so perfectly how this cycle continues to perpetuate itself and how the cycles of racism continue to happen due to things from hundreds of years ago, just it happens in a cycle. Anyway, she explains it so beautifully. She explains it better than I could. I have linked her Instagram in the description below. Please visit her Instagram, but do not, if you're going to visit her, if you're watching this, you disagree with me, and you're going to visit her Instagram and, argue with her, don't do that, because I will be so disappointed in you, and I will yell at you, do not do that. But I want you to look at her resources to educate yourself, because she breaks it down really well. So anyway, oh my god, but Rachel Hollis, I'm on your side on this one. Girl, I'm on your side. Girl, when she says, girl, stop apologizing, I'm normally like, girl, you need to apologize. But in this case, girl, you don't have to apologize. Girl, apologize to no one because you did the right thing. I appreciate you using your platform to talk about important issues, including the fact that police officers exhibiting too much power is going to lead to a destruction in society. People are in my comments Savvy, why do you hate police officers? Why are you anti-police? Stop putting words in my mouth. What I said was that police officers acting as executioners is going to destroy society. And if you don't believe that, then you don't believe in due process. Even classically, Abby believes in due process. She believes in it so much she applies it even when there's no court case involved. Video linked up in the cards. Anyway, whether or not the police officers had a warrant to be at her home, they did not have the right to kill her. Whether her boyfriend shot at them first, well, in this country we have something called the Second Amendment where, first of all, he legally owned a gun. He legally had ownership of that gun, so he did not have a crime by having that gun. And the whole idea behind people who are in favor of the Second Amendment is saying that we should be able to defend and protect ourselves against someone who might come into our home. But regardless, even if him shooting the police officer and they were trying to defend themselves, even in that case, them killing her was still murder. They did not have the right to kill her. They didn't have the right to kill her. God damn it. I don't know what more I can say. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to support justice in this country. Sign some petitions. Spread the word. What's happened to this woman and her family is a tragedy. And if we keep letting things like this happen in this country, I don't know what's going to happen. Because this is not how a successful, functional country is run. See y'all again later.